totally forgot to write this into the script, but just listen to this fucking music. Ghost Hunters is a weird game. Created by the Oliver twins, it takes the platforming formula from their previous game, Super Robin Hood, and it adds a spooky, haunted house element. It also adds one of the strangest control schemes I've dealt with in a game, but we'll come back to that. The goal of the game is to rescue your brother, Chuck Studbuckle. Chuck Studbuckle. Seriously, this review could end here. 10 out of 10, I'm done. Okay, but anyway, the story has you searching a haunted mansion for your brother who, henceforth, I shall try not to mention so often, Stud Chuckbuckle took part in Professor Twilight's competition to rid his mansion of ghosts and ghouls, but it seems he done goofed. It's now your job to shirtlessly rescue him. Now, I always vividly remember this game being hard as nails, but despite that, I've really liked the general idea. I was a big fan of Super Robin Hood, so having a horror-themed version of that game, it was a good twist. In theory. There's a couple of problems with Super Haunted Hood, and a lot of them stem from or revolve around the difficulty. Firstly, this isn't a traditional get hit by something and lose energy kind of game. There's a terror meter at the bottom of the screen that gradually fills up depending on the amount of spooky things on the screen. The higher the terror meter is, the faster your macho bar drains. Honest to God, it sounds like I'm making this up. Now, thankfully, you are able to combat some of the nasties on screen. In order to do this, you use the in-game crosshair to shoot anti-ghost bullets at things on screen. It plays out like a two-player game. One person platforming and one person shooting. And sure enough, there's a two-player option available here. But in single-player, oof, you've got a handful. So you're navigating these precarious platforms, you're trying to avoid touching any bad guys, because that'll fill your terror meter up even more, and you need to keep an eye out for any bad guys appearing at any point on the screen, because they're going to gradually scare the man-juice out of you. You then have to stop what you're doing and hold down the fire button, which will grant you control of the crosshairs. These will swing wildly across the screen with such heavy inertia, it's often easier to just try and get to the next screen before attempting to shoot anything. This is not ideal in a game where you need to constantly keep moving if you want to avoid getting hit, or when trying to navigate moving platforms. Your only option is to find a safe space to hide while you blast away, or to just run as fast as humanly possible to avoid getting too scared. There are health pickups along the way. I can only assume these are vials of liquid testosterone and other random items that you collect. These items are all valuables that you'll find scattered around, such as necklaces and treasure chests, etc. At first, I thought these things were just for points, but no, they have a much more useful and confusing purpose. Picking up these sundry items will trigger the various lifts and contraptions in the mansion to start moving. You're given a hint that this is the case when you immediately pick up the blood goblet at the very start of the game. But as you do this almost instantly, it's tough to recognise that this is what is setting the lift off. This caused me to initially wander around for a while, wondering where the hell I was supposed to go next, and why certain lifts had suddenly turned themselves on. It then dawned on me that each item affects a different thing. And this is fine, it kind of works in a very primitive Metroidvania-style way, but the problem lies in the placement of these items and what effect they have on the environment. When you pick something up, you have no way of knowing what it's actually done, and half the time, it's switched something on that's all the way back across the other side of the mansion. With an energy meter that's constantly draining and no time to lose, this basically means that you need to memorize the layout of the entire mansion and all of the pathways that you need to take in order to successfully complete the game. And on my 6th or 7th playthrough, I actually started to do okay. I was making good headway into the mansion, and I was thinking, oh, finally, after 30 years, I've actually got close to completing this game. In the past, I've probably only ever experienced maybe the first 5 or 6 screens before dying. But then this happened. Yes, a haunted glitch. At that point, my mind just checked out and I gave up entirely. See, the biggest problems with Ghost Hunters is that it's hugely frustrating. The platforming's fiddly and glitchy, and while your character is well animated, he doesn't always do what you want him to do. The gun mechanics are a good idea, but at least in single player, they're a pain in the poltergeist to use. The constantly draining health, the terror meter, the need to remember exactly which way to go every time. It all amounts to a game that needs a mini exorcism to rid it of its gaming demons. As it stands, the game is okay, but there's better options out there. Sorry, Chuck Studbuckle. It looks like you're spending another night with the horrors.